Yo, so apparently Sony, I mean, I'm surprised they asses ain't even do some shit like this too. But apparently Nintendo out here bricking their systems, bro. I don't know if all that's gonna be heard. I'll just say it again right here, bro. Apparently Nintendo out here bricking their fucking consoles, bro. I had seen a video like I think like yesterday or 2 days ago being uploaded by some ordinary gamers. I thought it was just some BS, so I didn't even bother clicking on it. And then I'm seeing Young Yeah right here upload the same damn video, and I'm just like, what? Like, ain't no way something like this gonna be happening. Are they like they tripping? Like, what the hell?
Just an update that Nintendo recently posted to the end user license agreement involving the waiving of your right to sue them, specifically to engage in things like
I had
class action
oh shit.
lawsuit. Basically,
I
Nintendo
had seen that video pop up too, but I didn't even bother clicking on it. So they trying to waive your right to sue them
right
too?
to sue them, specifically to engage in
But like
things like
what?
class action lawsuit. Basically, Nintendo added a forced arbitration clause that forces you to, on a contractual level, if you use Nintendo products and make things like Nintendo accounts, to arbitrate things with them on a one-to-one basis instead of being able to take them to court. How much that clause can hold up really depends. Depends on the state, depends on the courts and judges and whatnot. But it's just this extra
Yeah, but like I doubt it's gonna be also happening with like say when they're bricking your own damn console, bro. Like you're paying for that, you own it, like, and they expect people to just let that shit slide. Like, nah, they tripping.
layer of protection because Nintendo was bombarded with lawsuits after the Switch 1 era faced wide issues in regards to Joy-Con drift.
So they right here being scared about something like that happening again. Why not next time just fix your damn thing? Make it to where it's not gonna need that shit. Like, what the fuck is all that shit happening then?
That forced a lot of people to have to repurchase Joy-Cons because the product itself
Yeah,
just
them
wasn't
bitches be like
very
80
long
bucks
lasting. Its
too.
longevity just wasn't what it should have been. And so Nintendo added this clause
Cheap ass fucking controls too. I ain't even bother switching my shit. I still got the same damn one.
to the
I ain't
EULA,
even gonna buy the Switch too. That shit's stupid.
and it is something that a lot of people find to be rather questionable. The only way for you to get out of this forced arbitration clause is to send a written letter to Nintendo within 30 days of you
A
signing up for a
written
Nintendo
letter.
account or agreeing to this end user license agreement. They're making the process of that as tedious and insufferable and just as, sneaky as possible.
So they trying to make it as long and like again tedious like fucking like gym memberships, bro.
So that a lot of people are forced to essentially become a part of this end user agreement without the ability to get out of that forced arbitration. So that was already a whole situation that a lot of people found shady. But
Fuck.
what recently came to light is that the update to the end user license agreement features another element that is worth bringing up, one that may allow Nintendo to brick your console if they feel like you're not in accordance with the end user license agreement. The following information
Wait,
was
but how
noticed
would
by
they know that? Tampering. So it's just like modding and shit. Cause motherfuckers are still gonna get around that shit.
news outlet GameFile, specifically Stephen Totillo, published the following article that highlighted some of those portions of the end user license agreement that has changed to a degree where it just feels rather extreme. So let's look at Nintendo's end user license agreement, or their account user agreement, which
Wait
was
up.
changed on May of 2025, which added clauses in regards to forced arbitration that tries to prevent you from, allowing you to class action lawsuit them. And then beyond that, scrolling down, section 2 here was recently changed, and this is the portion that I want to read out loud as it has some pretty significant implications. It reads right here: without limitation, you agree that you may not A, publish, copy, modify, reverse engineer, lease, rent, decompile, disassemble, distribute, offer for sale, or create derivative works of any portion of the Nintendo account services. B, bypass, modify, decrypt, defeat, tamper with, or otherwise circumvent any of the functions or protections of the Nintendo account services, including through the use of any hardware or software that would cause the Nintendo account services to operate other than in accordance with its documentation and intended use. C, obtain, install, or use any unauthorized...
They think they're doing something so damn good right now that a lot of people are just going to be doing something that they are not even going to like. Like, I think I seen somewhere too that piracy is like, that's just coming back up. I mean, it's gonna happen when you're doing some crazy ass shit like this.
Copies of Nintendo account services, or D, exploit the Nintendo account services in any manner other than to use them in accordance with the applicable documentation and intended use, in each case without Nintendo's written consent or express authorization, or unless otherwise expressly permitted by applicable law.
I'm buying that shit. Ain't no way I'm gonna be asking for your permission
to comply with the foregoing restrictions Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. It is no secret at this point that Nintendo is absolutely not a fan of customers being able to take the console that they bought and modify it in the way that they want, whether it be hardware or software modifications. Nintendo does not like homebrew at all, in large part because it does pave the road to potential piracy. Nintendo's been all about, taking down ROM websites and emulation websites. And with the upcoming launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, they want to make sure that their console is as ironclad as possible when it comes to security measures to prevent people from downloading their games and just running them on their console without buying them.
Gonna happen.
And they're casting this wide net of, like, if you in any way, shape, or form engage in homebrew activity or modification activity, then we have every right to essentially brick your console, to render your Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. This was a clause that was not there in the old end user license agreement. This is what it said before that change happened.
Wait, so did they change it after? No, wait, did they change it? Yeah, did they change it after the Switch 2 had already been being sold?
Archived here by GameFile. You're not allowed to lease, rent, sublicense, publish, copy, modify, adapt, translate, reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble all or any portion of the Nintendo account services without Nintendo's written consent or unless otherwise expressly permitted by applicable law. But there was no clause here about the consequences of what could happen if you violate this end user license agreement. There was no clause about Nintendo just being able to render your Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. So in agreeing to the new end user license agreement, what Nintendo is saying is, if we feel like there's any shady activity going on your console, any activity that we deem shady, then we will send a kill switch that will kill your console if we so desire. Now, I don't know if, say, like the Nintendo Switch 2 has the capability of being completely disabled by Nintendo, if they have the capability to send some kind of kill switch that can render a console useless. We don't know the technical aspects of how Nintendo would be able to do that, but Nintendo is covering their bases here if they had the capability to do that. If you sign up for a Nintendo account or if you sign up to Nintendo services and engage with Nintendo products, they just want to give themselves the leeway to be able to disable your device permanently if they don't like what you're doing with it. Now, it seems as though this update to the end user license agreement isn't for all regions, because in the UK, for example, the user...
I'm pretty sure the EU ain't gonna allow some dumb shit like that.
Agreement reads differently, as highlighted here by Nintendo Life. The UK version of the user agreement, for example, reads as follows. Any digital products registered to your Nintendo account and any updates of such digital products are licensed only for personal and non-commercial use on a user device. Digital products must not be used for any other purpose, in particular without NOE's written consent. You must neither lease nor rent digital products, nor sublicense, publish, copy, modify, adapt, translate, reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble any portion of digital products other than as expressly permitted by applicable law. Such unauthorized use of a digital product may result in the digital product becoming unusable. Now, I don't know if the reason for why the user agreement is different in the UK is because consumer protection laws don't allow Nintendo to just send a kill switch for a device that a customer bought, or if it's because they're just still updating things region by region. But Nintendo is clearly on a path to try to exert as much control and autonomy over how you use your own hardware as much as possible. Now look, on one hand, Nintendo is allowed to...
It's gonna be the same thing that what Apple's trying to do.
take any measures they deem necessary to
That's why I
protect their
got off
product,
that
their
shit.
intellectual property. They are allowed to put in measures to stop piracy and the like. But a lot of people, myself included, feel like they're crossing a line with giving themselves any sort of capability to send any sort of kill switch for a device a customer purchase. Once you buy a piece of hardware, you should be allowed to do with that hardware what you want, as long as it is within the confines of the law. And yes, homebrew can lead to piracy, but homebrew inherently isn't piracy. It can be used for that purpose, but some people can modify their consoles and not engage in any activities that would, by the letter of the law, be considered illegal or even morally, reprehensible. If somebody, say, wants to homebrew the Nintendo Switch 2 so they can play videos like MP4s and whatnot on it, then that's not piracy, and that is not illegal in any way, shape, or form. They're just, by their own ingenuity, adding an additional functionality to a product that they own through their own volition, and that is something that would be wrapped up under the umbrella of this wide net that Nintendo is casting of any sort of modification, regardless of whether the modification is for legal or illegal purposes. Any sort of modification will give us the right to kill your console, to send a kill switch, to brick it as we deem fit. It's bad enough that it feels like we don't own our games, and with the Switch 2, with that.
Yes, the Switch 2 has keys, and they're selling keys with empty cartridges. Like, what do they think is gonna be happening? Like, people are just gonna be out just doing whatever they want after all that shit. Like, there's obviously people gonna be out there trying to figure out a way to try to like maneuver their way to get into the whole bricking thing. Like that they're pretty much just Nintendo's just telling people to like try it. Like that's the whole thing.
Game key cards that still require downloads, rendering those kinds of physical versions of games completely useless in terms of what you'd expect from a physical media purchase. And with just the general degradation of physical media, especially in the video game sector, where even if you have a disc or a cartridge, some kind of download is required, thereby rendering the purpose of that media, the physical aspect of it, just kind of not what it was meant to accomplish. With so much autonomy already being lost over our media library, it's crazy to think that we're now starting to lose autonomy over the actual box of hardware that runs that media, because companies are giving themselves the capability to send a kill switch, to brick your console remotely if they so desire, or at least adding
like, just imagine they trying to do this with a car. You didn't pay your bills, bro. Like, kill switch. Or you driving in a freeway? Oh, you didn't pay it. It's already around the time where you gotta pay it. Like, kill switch, bro. You was going 50 in the freeway? Kill switch, bro. Like then what?
Clauses in their contracts and their end user license agreement that state that if they were to come up with a way to do that, that you would not be able to fight back against that, regardless of whether the activity you engaged in by modifying the console was actually illegal or not. Emulation by itself isn't illegal. Homebrew by itself isn't illegal. Modifying consoles, hardware, software-wise, by itself.
Even though the fans out there trying to make it look like it is, but it's not. They stupid for thinking that it is, but it's not.
Itself is not illegal. Emulation, homebrew, mods, those are all just tools, but it's how you use those tools that defines the legality of your activities. In the same manner that a fork by itself isn't illegal, but if you stab someone with a fork, then you get in legal trouble. Then, consequences are warranted, but if you use your fork to eat your meal, then that is just an activity that cannot be persecuted by the law. I don't know if that metaphor made any sense, but all I'm trying to say is that the precedent of a company...
like, it's just gonna have an open door for anything else to be doing the same thing. Like, again, with the car. They already trying to put subscriptions, I think, on this one Beamer or some other cars. Like, bro, like, what the hell?
Having the means to disable a hardware device that you own is just a dangerous precedent. This is Nintendo's way of trying to fight piracy, but the way you really fight piracy is by making things better and more convenient than privacy. And you have seen over the years, Nintendo hardware and software have sold...
But they set the prices higher. They set them bitches like at $80, bro. I'm paying $80 to buy a key, bro. I could go to the store and buy a key for like $2-3.
incredibly well, and the piracy aspect hasn't been like so woefully detrimental to Nintendo as to negatively impact their business to a point where it's this giant red flag where it is going to kill their business. Just make your product, services, the convenience of getting games through you so just seamless and so easy and just so much better with features that make the gaming experience on the platform so good and feature complete that it's preferable over the piracy practice. And
like the only game I'm gonna get for the Nintendo Switch 2 is that Cyberpunk game, because they said it was gonna be the whole thing in it. I already got the game on PC, my PS5, and then I'm gonna get it on the Switch too.
And that's how you win. It's what Gabe Newell said about how piracy is a service problem more than anything. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, pirates will eventually figure out how to crack this thing wide open and find ways to like not get in trouble while at it, and find ways to disable Nintendo's ability to engage in sending kill switches if that is something that is within their capabilities. They'll find a way to eventually get homebrew up and running. Like that is just inevitable. It's just going to take some time. And when that happens, there's no stopping pirates. And for those who are...
They're like, as soon as that happens, I don't know what Nintendo's going to be trying to be doing. Like, they could either try to make an update to try to crash any other Switch device that's already been added with like a homebrew, just to try to brick their shit. Like, bro, like you just doing unnecessary things to try to prevent people to do something that they already going to do.
Are not engaging in piracy, but are still engaging in homebrew. They are not doing anything that is actually illicit. They're just doing something that Nintendo would prefer that they don't do, but aren't actually doing something.
Like turn on 60 FPS. Like, bro, come on, man.
Something illegal, and nothing that would warrant or justify Nintendo sending a kill switch and rendering the hardware that they bought that they can do with what they want, because at that point the hardware is there. They didn't buy a license to access the hardware. They bought the hardware, and when you sell a product whose hardware is dependent on the software, you have to make the software functional. You can't just send a kill switch just because they did something that you didn't like, but that wasn't actually illegal. And so their purchase was rendered useless. You made them spend money, and then you killed.
Yeah, they're gonna see some kid put on a Sony sticker on a freaking Nintendo. They're gonna send an assassin right there going after that kid. Like, bro,
their product from a distance, even though they didn't actually do anything illegal. Like, that is a line that when you cross and you normalize, it's going to start to potentially lead into an era where corporations will not only exert control and autonomy over your ability to access your games, but also start exerting control and autonomy over your ability to access the electronic that you bought, the electronic and its functionalities, and your ability to, like, you know, use the hardware that you own, where a corporation can just kill the functionality of the electronics that you purchase. Just normalizing that in any way, shape, or form, just that capability existing at all, is something to be deeply concerned about, because of the ways that could be potentially exploited and the way corporations, you know, will essentially really want to control how you use.
Like, just imagine something like that happens to PCs. Like, bro, that's just gonna be crazy. Like, I know it's not gonna happen. Like, there's Linux and shit, but like, just imagine something like that could be happening. And then like just imagine if like Windows does something like that. Like, what the hell?
Stuff that you buy. And it's a question of, like, is Nintendo even allowed to do this? If somebody didn't actually do something like they illegal don't. By modifying the console.
I'm not too like well known in like knowing stuff like that, like in the court stuff, but I doubt something like that's gonna be not going through in like the US and shit. Like, it's just dumb.
And, you know, through the use of homebrew and whatnot, if Nintendo were to send a kill switch because they didn't like that, is that something that can be contested in court? Are they allowed to sell a product where they are the judge, jury, and executioner on whether people are allowed to continue to have access to the functionalities of the device that they purchased? That's an area that's very questionable, and I'm curious as to how legally that would actually hold up. if this were to be questioned, should someone present a case where they actually didn't do something illegal through the modification of the Nintendo Switch 2 console or whatever that they purchased, that they homebrewed, but didn't actually engage in, say, piracy. So yeah, food for thought. I don't know. I just thought this was worth bringing up, especially for those who do like to tweak and modify stuff that they purchase, electronics that they purchase. And on top of that, you should also be aware of what I covered previously of how dispute resolution is being handled by Nintendo through the implementation of forced arbitration that waives your ability to engage in class action. And how enforceable that is also something that's called into question, but it will give them some kind of protection. And so keep all of that in mind.
Well, I mean, I'm like Disney tried doing something like that too. Like though that one lady that died in that one drinking place, I think it was, where they tried to say that she signed up to Nintendo. I mean, the Disney Plus. And that she pretty much just gave away her rights to freaking sue, or not her husband to sue Disney.
As you engage with the Nintendo ecosystem. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on this update to the end user license agreement. Do you think the negative reception surrounding it is kind of blown out of proportion, or are you as worried as a lot of people are about some of the wording of things and some of the policies that they're implementing that feel a little bit extreme? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
Like, I just think that whole thing that Nintendo's out here trying to be doing, like, is so dumb that people will just dead ass just go and start doing what the hell they want to do or attempt to try to do just to get them mad. Like just me, like, bro, that whole thing is just dumb. I don't know why the hell they trying to do all that shit. Alright, peace out.